In 1954, my friends that I hung out with belonged to the Michigan National Guard. I did not. And finally they talked me into joining. In September of 1954, I joined the Michigan National Guard in Port Huron, Michigan, and stayed in the Guard for a number of years, went up to the enlisted ranks to E7. I met my wife June in 1956. We was ice skating at local park. After a bit, we dated for about 3 years. We were married in 1959, and we had the oldest boy, Scott, and then I joined the Army. So we took him along with us. And I was stationed at Fort Ord, California, and then I got orders to go to Vietnam. I knew nothing about Vietnam. I heard a little bit about it on the news. It wasn't a big deal, but you did see it on the news, and we had advisors over there. So Vietnam was just a hot spot like we continuously have, and I didn't think nothing of it, and I didn't think I would ever stand a chance at going there. I belonged to an infantry unit in the Guard, so I was trained as a platoon leader. And when I joined the Army, they sent me to Fort Benning for advanced officer training. And I also was sent to the Panama Canal Zone to Jungle Warfare School, where when I graduated from that school, you pretty much knew how to fight in the jungle, navigate in the jungle, and received a diploma that said I was a jungle expert. Well, I think I was far from an expert, but anyway. But you think, well, this is cool. I was a young macho kid, loved to, do the tough stuff, so to speak. And but when I got orders to go to Vietnam, was assigned to the 196, I didn't have a clue as to who they are. So I got orders to go there, and at that time, I still didn't have the full picture of what Vietnam was all about. I just did not. I just know I was going there to do something. The president was throwing lots of troops over there, and I got caught up in that. But prior to that, no, I didn't have a clue as to what Vietnam was all about, or I thought maybe it was just going to be a quick thing and it was over with, and I'd go on serving in the Army in peacetime. When I got to Vietnam, I said to myself, Charlie, what the heck did you do? I mean, I had a job, I was at home, I was in the National Guard, now look at you. We arrived at Tonsanute Air Base on a commercial, at the time 707, they're little planes now compared to the planes they have today. And I thought, well, okay, when I get off this plane, they're going to hand me a gun, I'm going to have to shoot my way out of here. Well, that wasn't the way it was. It was actually kind of a peaceful thing at that time, because what I was seeing on the news, of course, they was only showing the bad stuff on the news, which wasn't all over the entire country at the time, just in spots. And got me a flight up to my unit at Charley, and they had a training program of their own. And all new people coming in got 4 or 5 days orientation as to what was going on in that area. That's when I started to realize that this was serious. I knew it was serious, but didn't know how serious. And then I got assigned to my unit and just went from there. people, the troops that were there. The commander of the unit I took over, I met him. He briefed me. We talked. About half of the unit that I took over were seasoned combat vets, and then about half of us were replacements, new, and had to learn how to do whatever the job was necessary to do. And so it was always a training thing from day one till forever. It's the way it always is. The training never stops. Every mission is a training mission. Talking about the early training, my first experience, I was going someplace. I don't know where I was going, but my Jeep driver, he's been there quite a while, and he was an NCO. And we're driving down the road, and I was probably going to a battalion or brigade headquarters because it was fairly secure. And about 200, 300, 200 yards at least was a little hill, and I seen these three individuals up there, Vietnamese, with weapons, because they had their own local police force and National Guard, so to speak. And I pointed to them, and the old soldier that's been there a while, he nodded yes. And I said, well, how do you know if they're the bad guys or the good guys? He said, wait and see if they shoot at us. And that's the way it was. My first mission was probably just 4 or 5 days after I took command of the unit. But that was not to be concerned. I was concerned, yes. I'm brand new at this. I wasn't brand new at being a soldier, but I was brand new at combat. And but I had some good subordinate leaders in my unit that had been around a long time. They were experienced, and I let them lead the way. As a leader, I listen to the people with the experience. I don't tell them you do it my way or the highway type thing. Give me your we're going to do a mission as an example. Okay, the experienced people, I'll say, here's the plan for the mission. Will that work? And they'll tell you yes or no. Okay, why? And they'll tell you. And if you're a good leader, you'll listen to them. And as time went on, my unit was good. We killed more of the enemy with less casualties than any other company in the brigade. So when we'd have a briefing with the battalion commander that we're going to do a new mission, he would turn to me and, now keep in mind I'm a company commander, and he'd say, Charlie, will that work? And I'd say yes or no. And but he was doing the same thing I learned to do. Listen to the people with the experience. And if I'd say no, or if my people would say no, okay, what will work? How do we do this? It's not just the commander say, you will do it my way, like in the movies. It doesn't work that way. And if you do it that way, you're going to lose every time. And some did. Some officers, I've seen officers come out of the ROTC program and get into that situation, and they're the boss. They're going to do what I tell you to do, or else. They lost. It just doesn't work that way. And one of my first missions was we were always looking for the enemy's stash of weapons, called Search and Destroy. Well, I had a mission with a armored unit, and it was on the beach of a village on the beach, and we had a time that I was to meet up with the armored unit. Well, they got ahead of the program. He said I was too early or too late, and I said he was too early. And battalion commander, he told the armor guy, he says, "You were too early." And so, but anyway, we weren't in a gunfight, so it didn't matter that much. And where I was not jungle like you see in the movies. Where I was if you go to Disney World, Orlando, Florida, it was the same vegetation, same temperature year-round as Florida, Orlando. So you might have a day or two before you're really going to do this mission. So as a leader, you go on a recon. You're reconnaissance. You go and you take a look. And you can do that by air, or you can do it by ground. The best way to do it is by air, helicopter, and take a look. What's my route between here and where I'm going, where the mission is? And then when you get back from your recon, you brief all your leaders by the map, and you say, here's the route we're going to take. So every one of your leaders, your subordinate leaders, know exactly what's going on, know exactly what you're going to do, and everyone can get where you're intending to go. Even though every mission that we went on didn't end up in a gunfight, I call it gunfight, some people call it firefight, but the possibility was there, and so you always had to be ready for it. And then if it's a big enough operation, well, you had a brigade of 3,000 troops, and they had armor, artillery. You were never out of range of artillery. You had air support. We had air superiority always. So I wasn't out there all by myself. I was never out of range of artillery. In that, and then we had breaks within the unit itself. You send guys up to division headquarters to take a break for the whole day. Take the day off, go to the beach, go to the club, enjoy. And when I went to Vietnam, I took a 35mm camera that I shot mostly all slides with. I went to the post exchange at division headquarters, and I was talking to the manager there, and I asked him if he ever sold 35mm cameras. He says he sells them as fast as he can get them in. Because you were buying a Japanese camera, like I bought the Minolta, for like $100. Here in the States, that same camera was selling for $300. So that's why they were selling fast. The guys were buying them, sending them home. And what I wanted to buy one to use it for myself. So I says to him, well, when do you get them in? And he says, I'll tell you what, Captain. He says, I'm getting 3 of them in tomorrow. I'll save you one. You be here at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm going to let you in before we open, and I'm going to sell you that camera. I says, good, great. So there I was banging on his back door at 8 o'clock in the morning like he told me. Went in, I bought the camera, and went on my way. That night, the VC, they would throw rockets at us every 4 to 5 days, just harassment, basically. And they had a direct hit on the PX and destroyed the building completely. So I got my camera a day before. Fortunately, nobody was in the building. Nobody was hurt at that time, but they did destroy that building, and but not before I got my camera. So the most scary one, the most desperate, the most intense one was we were in a battalion operation looking for NVA, which was in the area, North Vietnamese Army. Now these guys are well-trained Army troops, well-equipped, and we were looking for them. There was a small hill that our Company A, I was commanding Company C. Company A was up on this small little hill. We were given the order to hold because Company B was in the Tucker brush. There's actually a brush called Tucker brush, trying to get through it to catch up. I was behind Company A in the holding position. And there was a trail that led off that hill, and Company A decided that he was going to go and check out that trail. So he sent a platoon down that trail, and they got ambushed, big time. So he sent his other platoon, and he ran into a bigger unit than was thought to be there. I then came up on that hill. When I got to that hill, they were already, had been ambushed. There was about 20 NVA soldiers on that hill. I come up behind them. I eliminated them. Then I was on the hill and could oversee the action, and I contacted them by radio, and I told the radio operator I don't want to talk to company commander. He said, well, he's down. I said, then give me the highest ranking guy you got standing right there next to you. It was an NCO. And I asked him, I says, do you know how to do a retreat? Basically, it's a fire and maneuver, whereas you lay down a base of fire with part of your unit while the other part moves back, and then they lay down a base of fire while the ones that were laying down the base of fire, they move back. It's a leapfrog type to get yourself out of there. And he said, yes, I do. I says, okay, you come back and you get behind me where you were located before you left on top of this hill. And I got him and his wounded back behind me. Company B is still coming up on my left through the Tucker brush. I told them to hold their position. I found myself in command of the battalion. The battalion commander is on the phone. He's wanting to know the situation. My radio operator says, commander wants to talk to you. I says, tell him I'm busy. I'll call him back later. And so I got into a gunfight with folks that ambushed A Company. And there was a forward air controller flying around up there. These are the guys that control the what we call the fast movers, the support Marine Air Group. One of the major players was the F-4 Phantom. And to this day, I think that's the greatest looking aircraft. Of course, it's ancient now and they got new stuff. Those planes were super fast as well as today's planes. And normally you didn't hear them coming, you heard them going, literally. But I knew they were coming, and I knew from which direction they were coming because I was talking to the forward air controller. Now the forward air controller flies around in a little single engine fixed wing Piper Cup. And he controls those aircraft because they fly so fast and so high, and unless he gives them the target, they don't know where they're at. And the way he does that, he has rocket pods on his plane, and he'll fire these rockets, and that will mark the target. And then they come in and drop whatever kind of bombs they've got on, or you request. They'll have iron bombs that they're just bombs that explode and throw shrapnel all over and destroy everything, or napalm, which is big fiery type bomb. And so that's who I was talking to. You don't talk to the fighter pilots themselves. You only talk to the forward air controller. And he talks to the pilots. And so I seen him up there, and I got on his frequency and I called him. And he says, "Do you need a little help down there?" I says, "Yeah, I could use a lot of it." I says, "What do you got?" He says, "I got 2 fast movers with iron bombs." I says, "Give them all to me." And I says, "What I want you to do, out in front of me, about 200 yards or so, there's a trail out there." He says, "I see it." I says, "I want you to drop everything you got on that trail." And my reasoning for that was to stop anything from coming my way, more the enemy, or to trap the ones I already had trapped with me down there. And so he did. And when I first seen the first one coming, I thought he was coming right at me. And I almost panicked and called a check fire. And I thought, I hope he knows what the hell he's doing. So he did. He dropped his load and then blew that trail all up. When you drop large bombs like they have, you can't be too close to them because the concussion can kill you. So you got to be careful of that. And then I called for artillery, and we eliminated the threat that was there immediately, the immediate threat. But that was probably after everything's over, you say, whoa, and the rush, the emotional rush just drains you. But that was probably I would say the scariest, if you can measure scary to scary situation I was ever in. The leadership that I showed at that time, and that NCO of A Company, bringing those guys back, was what you call leadership. And it takes good leadership to win battles. I'm not bragging that I was good, but I was good. You're constantly taking inventory of your troops. And if you don't have everybody there, either wounded, killed, or alive or whatever, then you go back to where the gunfight was and you collect them up if at all possible. No, you don't leave them out there. In an intense situation as that was, you just do it. You don't leave them there. We never left anybody. If you and I are here, you go down, I'm here. I'm going to come over and pick you up and drag you along. I'm not going to wait for somebody. It's every man helps every man, And it's just a natural reaction to do something. And yeah, maybe you might pick the guy up and drag him along while you're shooting at the same time. The idea is you're not aiming at anybody. You're just throwing a whole lot of lead out there to keep them from firing at you. It's not a aim and shoot somebody. When you get shot at, you fire everything you got at whatever's shooting at you to silence them. We're going to eliminate them by all means possible. It's the nature of warfare. Either you have the total firepower or they have the total firepower superiority, and either you're going to get eliminated or you're going to eliminate them. And fortunately in Vietnam, we had air superiority, we had artillery superiority, we had medical superiority, we had a superiority of everything over bad guys. The news did not help us in conflict at all. That was quite obvious with the riots here. And I don't think there would have been near the riots that there was at the time had the news been a little more quiet on a thing just like Korea and the Second World War. But when they were showing all this, you've seen a lot, and I think no, the news didn't. To me, didn't help me at all. Not only was I fighting North Vietnamese Army and the VC, I was fighting the people at home, I felt. And we had a big riot in Detroit, and I got very concerned because my family's living just 60 miles north of Detroit. How's that going to spread around? And here I am over there, and they're over here, and they're shooting and killing people in Detroit, and that's all over the news. And the news is good, but I don't think they helped the situation at all. Because let me add just one more thing. General Giap, he was the head of the North Vietnamese Army. He said that he's going to let the American people win the war for him. And they did, by all the rioting and all the backlashes. And he was right. We won that war, as far as I'm concerned. But we gave it away at the end too. That was my opinion, and my personal opinion, my personal view of what I've seen.